So this was a healing about a man in his 40s who came to me a few times with serious hemorrhoid issue. And we made progress each time, but life doesn't stop, and the causes behind the hemorrhoids, as I'm going to describe in a minute, um, you know, they kept recurring. So we had to keep every healing, keep coming back and relieving the hemorrhoids. Now this in this particular healing, I'm not going to claim that what I'm describing here will cover all hemorrhoid conditions. This is one healing. Every healing is completely different. Every person is completely different. Every person's physical, emotional, mental, etc. makeup is completely different. So this is one healing on one person. And when I tune in for a healing, if you don't already know how I work, I sort of, he tells me my hemorrhoids are killing me. But when I actually tune in for a healing, I don't, I don't go for that area, whatever area they're asking about. I empty my mind and I tune in to the person's energy body, and I communicate with what I call the body's wisdom, the body's intelligence. And so the very first thing that that person's body intelligence directed me to, lo and behold, was the auric hemorrhoids, the auric sphincter. And I kind of laughed to myself, when his body wisdom brought me right there. I'm like, nobody's gonna believe this. But anyway, I saw it really, really clearly, as I've been seeing it clearly for the last several times that we've done the healing. Now, this is for this particular person, this was a complete root chakra issue, and there were two facets to the hemorrhoids that I saw. One was loose tissue, and that created sort of, loose skin and sort of bubbles. I know this is kind of gross, but it's so common. This is, I know preparation age helps, but the root causes, when you get into the root causes at the auric level, that's the way you can potentially, heal it. Maybe not permanently, but really get to the bottom, to the root cause of it. So the first part was the loose, that the body was and brought me into the what the root chakra was doing at the sphincter level, and it was showing me the looser skin, and it was showing me one particular like bulbous bubble off to the left. This is an auric field, but probably, obviously, I haven't looked. I do everything remotely. This is all telepathic, but probably this was what it looked like. And so what I saw basically was the loose skin and the little bulbous part that was sticking out to the left clearly had to do with emotional energy related to feeling defeated, basically worrying and fears, and knowing what was going on in this guy's life. A lot of money fears and health fears, other kind of health issues besides the hemorrhoids. People in his life that are having trouble. So a lot of worrying and a lot of fears was making him feel really kind of defeated, and that's why he was like sort of sinking down, and the root chakra was kind of, normally it's supposed to really be a beautiful spiral vortex, but in this part of the root chakra, becoming sort of loose and skin, and then the root chakra started vibrating, spinning in kind of a wobbly, loose kind of way. So it lost its vortex, coherent vortex shape. Then, so by focusing on that, all of a sudden, that sort of transformed that the fears and the worrying and the actual skin, the auric skin of the hemorrhoid started to become looking more and more and more normal. And that bulb on the left side, which is the feminine side, the emotional side, the left side, is where the heart is. So that's one of the reasons, that the root chakra was kind of falling, sort of collapsing a little bit on the emotional side, the left side. That's why it was allowing this sort of bubble, loose skin bubble to form. So by working with the body's intelligence, I was able to get to clear up that the bulb aurically, and then everything started to look more or less the way it should. But then all of a sudden, the hemorrhoid transformed. What happened is the energy now came down from inside the body, and it was energy of anger and indignation, of people who had been, putting him down, belittling him. There's some work issues. And so it went from feeling defeated, and we sort of transformed that emotion. And now it went to the underlying emotion, which is, that he was pretty angry. And so that energy, that dry, fiery, electrical, lightning kind of energy, now that took over the hemorrhoid. And that created completely dry energy and chapped, like, see all the, I was able to, see all these kind of chapped lines there, and this tightness. Now all of a sudden, that root chakra that was loose and wobbling now became really constricted and was sort of very, very tight and sort of controlled. It really wasn't leaving. The root chakra is supposed to go down and spinning normally between the legs. Now it was sort of really tied up there and very tight. You might say, in those kind of emotions, he was feeling like a tight ass. It's not exactly the term, perhaps, because there's other ways to utilize that term, but that might be one way for this particular energy that I'm describing here. So once again, I stayed with this, was able to erase, maybe like a week, maybe a little bit more of this kind of anger and rage that this gentleman was feeling from different insults and put downs and frustrating situations. And so that those energies lifted. And now I was able to see, what looked like a more and more relaxed sphincter. And it looked just like a normal, normal butt. So yeah, so this is one healing. Obviously, this person's going to go back into their life, and maybe another healing or two. He'll ask me to work on the hemorrhoids again. Hopefully not. Hopefully, this will be a gradual diminishment. And also, when you tell people, oh, the hemorrhoids is due to those kind of fears and me reacting with worry to that situation, and also the chat part of it, the dry part of it, is coming from my anger at this person and this situation. Sometimes when you tell people those kind of underlying root causes, that creates movement in the unconscious. People start processing and they say, hey, wait a second, next time they feel those kind of defeated thoughts, or the next time they feel that kind of indignation and anger and rage, they pull back and they say, whoa, I better pull back here, because I know from Ziji telling me that these kind of emotions help create these hemorrhoids. So that's also the way this healing process works. Sometimes you just got to give people the information, and then they start working consciously and unconsciously. And people who meditate, particularly Buddhist meditators, you start to catch on to the tape loops, the way the triggers, what pushes your buttons, and also the physiological reactions and responses you get when those buttons are pushed. um, through meditation and self-mastery, you learn, you say, hey, wait a second, these emotions trigger such and such health condition. And then gradually, you learn to control those emotions, and hopefully those conditions lessen and sometimes disappear altogether. So, all right.